Actually, what he did was um, fairly consistent with what he'd done before. He had probably, Elon was a little bit.
Something's happening in America that has the legacy media in an absolute panic. Something that doesn't show up in their cherry-picked polls, something that doesn't get covered on their embarrassing primetime shows, and frankly, they're praying you never find out about it. Because right now as we speak, some very prominent, very high-profile people, lifelong Democrats, people who built their entire careers in the Democrat Party, are walking out the door. Not reluctantly, not quietly, but loudly, publicly, and with devastating explanations for why they're leaving. And it's not just the big names. Underneath those headline-grabbing defections, a story unfolding in state after state that is absolutely staggering. A story written not in opinion polls or pundit hot takes, but in the cold, hard, undeniable math of voter registration rules. The numbers don't lie, and what they're telling us about the future of the Democrat Party and what it means for the 2026 midterms are absolutely devastating for the political left. Wait until you see this. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, celebrating yet another glorious day in the Trumpian golden age that you made possible back in November of 2024. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to the Democrat Party, effective yesterday, May 11th, citing his concern over the growing anti-Semitism within the party's mainstream. He specifically singled out Maine's likely Democrat Senate nominee, Graham Plattner, who revealed last October that he had a literal Nazi symbol tattooed on his body. Wecht accused the Democrat Party of minimizing and even coddling anti-Semitic acts, stating it had fundamentally changed from the party he once knew and represented. And Wecht is not alone. Many of you have seen Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz. He has also left the Democrat Party. He's officially become a Republican. He wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal stressing a theme that many former Democrats have stated repeatedly, that his own views have not changed. Rather, it's the Democrat Party that's left him, right? Echoing Ronald Reagan's famous formulation. He explained that his lifelong Democrat identity was rooted in Kennedy and Clinton-era centrism, a party that championed due process, free speech, civil liberties, which he says obviously now no longer describes today's Democrat Party taken over by radical left-wing lunatics. And again, for Dershowitz, the final breaking point was what he described as the party's embrace of virulent anti-Semitism, citing polling showing 70% of Democrats preferring Palestinians, which he equated with Hamas and Hezbollah, over democratic Israel, as evidence the party is really just fundamentally We've talked about this on a number of occasions on this channel, but these defections from the Democrats is actually a growing pattern. For every one Republican who defects and becomes a Democrat, 4 Democrats defect and become a Republican. It's a completely disproportionate ratio. Democrats switching to Republicans outnumber the other way around 4-1. It's absolutely incredible. And what that means, bottom line, is that the Democrat Party is literally disappearing. Slowly but surely, it's not just shrinking, it's eviscerating.
I discovered a hidden migrant camp in America with Texas.
This party defection is happening en masse, with the unprecedented number of blue state residents picking up and leaving their respective blue states for red states. Case in point, the New York Post reported that New York City may lose upwards of $12 billion in GDP for businesses fleeing the city to escape Mamdani's wealth and business taxes. $12 billion. That's why Texas and Florida and Tennessee and North and South Carolina are absolutely booming, while blue states like New York and California are teetering on the edge of total bankruptcy. The Democrat Party is literally imploding, all the while the Republican Party is thriving and surging. And we could see it not just in this 4-to-1 defection discrepancy or the mass migration out of blue states that's ultimately going to cost those blue states upwards of 12 to 16 electoral votes and congressional seats, according to the 2030 reapportionment. We're seeing it more and more as well in the voter registration trends. And the key here is that voter registration trends are one of the single most accurate predictive indicators for election results. So if you want to know what's going to happen in the upcoming midterms, don't so much pay attention to polls, pay attention to voter registration trends. And if you're a Democrat, these trends are the most horrifying numbers you have ever seen. Election analyst Seth Keshel, who's recently caught the eye of Newt Gingrich. He's a good friend to this channel. He's been crunching the latest voter registration numbers, and they're absolutely astonishing. You can check out his Substack at Captain K's Corner. It's excellent election analysis. But one of the key states that Seth keeps a very close eye on is the state of Florida. And for good reason, because Florida is a bit of a bellwether. Since 1952, wherever Florida goes, Pennsylvania and Michigan go. So Florida, Pennsylvania, and Michigan almost always move together, like last year's when Florida's obvious Republican surge had working class coattails in the Midwest, or I should say last November of 2024. Where Florida goes, Pennsylvania and Michigan are sure to follow. And the Republicans in Florida are absolutely freaking crushing it. Florida is, for all practical purposes, the emerging GOP superstate. Florida continues to cement its identity as the most structurally dominant Republican state outside the Deep South. They've gone from a 7.8% Republican registration advantage in November 2024 to now an astonishing 11.2% Republican advantage. Florida's becoming more red than Texas. It's absolutely insane. Florida has 67 counties. Only 8 of those 67 counties still have a Democrat majority registration. 8 of 67. Remember, just to put this in context, Florida voted for Obama twice, as did Ohio, as did Pennsylvania and Michigan. The shift rightward over these last 10 years has been utterly breathtaking. Now, another key state that Seth keeps close tabs on is Iowa. And that's because it's a bellwether for Wisconsin, and an important one because Wisconsin doesn't track voter registration by party, so we can't see this voter registration surge. But we see it by virtue of what's happening in Iowa. In 2024, Iowa went way to the right for Trump by double digits, to the everlasting humiliation of the once reputable pollster Ann Seltzer, who claimed that Kamala Harris was going to win Iowa by 3 points. Every single county in Iowa had shifted to the right. What are they, 91 counties? Every single county shifted to the right. And yet, Ann Seltzer said Kamala Harris was going to win. She lost by double digits. And that shift to the right pulled Wisconsin in that direction as well, giving Trump another win from Wisconsin. But Iowa has only gotten more red since. The GOP had a 10.3% voter registration advantage in November 2024. They now have an 11.1% voter registration advantage. Democrats have lost over 11,000 active registrations in just the past 16 months alone, and they now even trail independent voters in all 4 congressional Iowa districts, placing them effectively in 3rd place statewide, which is good news for where Wisconsin is moving, since Iowa tends to be a bellwether for how Wisconsin votes. Take a look at the Keystone State, Pennsylvania. No Republican presidential candidate has won the national election without winning Pennsylvania. They've gone from a Democrat voter registration advantage of 3.1% in 2024 to now just 2.1%. In terms of active voters, the advantage is shrinking even more. Democrats have gone from a 1.6% voter registration advantage now to just 0.7%. Analysts project that Pennsylvania will indeed be a red state in a matter of mere months. The two key counties in Pennsylvania are Erie County and Northampton County. Those are the two ones you always keep an eye on to understand where the state is going as a whole. Those are the classic bellwether counties for Pennsylvania. So he who wins Erie and Northampton almost always wins Pennsylvania. And they have been trending right for months now. And we could keep going and going. North Carolina has turned red for the very first time in its history. Democrats had a 1.3% voter registration advantage in November 2024. Now it's the Republicans who have a 0.1% advantage. Again, that's the first time in the history of the state that the Republicans have taken the lead in party identification. Arizona has gone from a 6.8% Republican voter ID advantage in November 2024 to now a 7.4% advantage. And Nevada, like North Carolina, has also flipped since November, going from a 0.5% Democrat voter ID advantage to now a 0.3% Republican advantage. If these voter registration trends continue, together with the structural realignment we're seeing with all the Republican redistricting, the GOP will be in very, very good position for the midterms. Again, I'm always going to remind you this, right? We're optimistic, but we are realists as well. Midterms historically suck for the party in power. There have only been 3 exceptions in the past century where the party in power did not lose seats by the dozens. Only 3 exceptions. But that said, it does look as if the conditions are indeed being set for the GOP to pull off yet another exception. That's what we're going to be keeping our eye on from now on to November. So what do you guys think? Are we looking at a 4th exception here? Will the GOP gain seats? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button for breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. Love you guys. God bless. Now, the best decision you can make is to get connected with patriots who are thinking clearly and standing strong. Join me inside the Courageous Patriots Club for our Monday night Q&A and exclusive content you won't get here on YouTube. Scan the QR code on your screen and join us today.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Griffin. Here. So the truth is, most people only know a handful of voice commands for their Tesla vehicle, but in reality, there are over 50 different voice commands that you can utilize with your Tesla. Anything from opening the trunk, turning on the dome lights, navigation, and the list goes on. So in today's video, we're going to be looking over 50 different voice commands for your Tesla Model 3 and Model Y here in 2026. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get into it. Okay, so starting off with the first category of voice commands, which, by the way, to activate all the voice commands, you simply press on this button right here once, and it will bring up the voice commands. Now, by the way, now vehicles have Grok integrated into them as well, so if you want to speak with Grok, you long press this button, and now Grok shows up. We'll look at that later. All right, so the first section of voice commands we're going to be looking over is, hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Griffin here. So the truth is, most people only know a handful of voice commands for their Tesla vehicle, but in reality, there are over 50 different voice commands that you can utilize with your Tesla. Anything from opening the trunk, turning on the dome lights, navigation, and the list goes on. So in today's video, we're going to be looking over 50 different voice commands for your Tesla Model 3 and Model Y here in 2026. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get into it. Okay, so starting off with the first category of voice commands, which, by the way, to activate all the voice commands, you simply press on this button right here once, and it will bring up the voice commands. Now, by the way, now vehicles have Grok integrated into them as well, so if you want to speak with Grok, you long press this button, and now Grok shows up. We'll look at that later. All right, so the first section of voice commands we're going to be looking over is climate control. So a lot of what can be done here on the screen can also be done through voice. Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Griffin here. So the truth is, most people
The conversation that I had with members of the Virginia congressional delegation will remain a private conversation with members of the Virginia congressional delegation. But the consensus on the call was we're going to win 2 or 3 seats, regardless of whether the current Virginia Supreme Court decision holds, which was a disgusting decision to invalidate the votes and the voices of more than 3 million people in Virginia. How desperate are these MAGA extremists? Because they know they're going down in flames electorally in November. They know it. And that's why they're behaving in such a desperate fashion. So we are going to proceed. We'll see what happens with the Supreme Court appeal that was filed by the Virginia Attorney General. It's not as if we have great faith in the fairness of the United States Supreme Court, but we'll let the process play itself out. We're operating under the assumption that the map is what the map is right now in advance of 2026. It may change in advance of 2028, but we're winning Virginia 1, and we're winning Virginia 2, and we have a shot to flip those other 2 seats under this current map. And that's what we're resolved to do.
You ultimately lost this. You take personal
Who lost?
You lost in the
Who lost? Did the voters lose?
Democrats did.
Did the voters lose?
You take personal responsibility for investing so much time and resources, tens of millions of dollars, and ultimately threw this out.
We did the right thing, and this effort is not over. It's just getting started. And by the way, come back to me on November 4th when Democrats have Donald Trump, and we take that seriously. And we know what's going.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Griffin here, and in today's video, we're going to be looking over all of the Tesla settings in the current and latest software update here in my 2024 Tesla Model 3. This is pretty much all going to apply, though, if you have a Model Y as well. So, especially if you got a new vehicle recently, I know that jumping from an IC over to a Tesla can be somewhat overwhelming, even though there's a lot less in the interior. Well, pretty much everything. Hey, Alright, so you just got a new Tesla, or maybe you've had one for a while now and you're still finding out some new features. Well, I'm going to walk you through over 30 features, settings, and tricks that every Tesla Model 3 and Model Y owner should know about. And I'm not talking about the basics that everyone covers, I'm talking about things like your ambient lights turning red to stop you from opening the door into a cyclist, the fact that there are 5 different manual ways to get out of your car in an emergency, as well as a whole bunch of other features that might be flying under the radar for you. Now, by the way, I've been driving Teslas for over 5 years. First a 2021 Model 3, and now a 2024 Highland. And I'm still discovering features to this day.
Hello, Michael.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Okay. Have you been to one of these meetings before?
Yeah, a long time ago, like from last year, I came on a few times. Aaron Delareyes invited me in from from another group from that we had mutually met on, and I've come on a handful of times. But there's the other one too, the other one that I think it's on Sundays. The other gentleman puts on. Sorry, I don't have my email in front of me. Jim, that's right. That's right. Yep.
He's the guy with he's got a long history in radio and television.
Oh
So,
yeah.
so he's kind of like charming, sort of.
Yeah.
Like listening to a newscaster from the 60s or 70s or something.
Yeah. You're over in LA, as I recall,
in
and
LA,
you are,
yeah. What they
yeah.
do.
Yeah. You're of the persuasion that doesn't hate Trump and can objectively look at him as a individual and not freak out, as I recall.
Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, it's not Trump. I mean, it's not like I'd want to spend an afternoon with him, but
Right. I mean I mean the TDS type of anti-Trump person in general.
yeah.
You're not that person. You're not that type.
It's the policies. And anyhow, I think, and I am recording this, so I'll put my foot in the mouth. Is that right? Foot in the mouth? Yeah.
Yeah, sounds right.
It's you have to be tolerant. That's one thing I appreciate about him too. He goes and spends times with his opposition, like he's in China. I was really concerned about that because they could drug him or knock him out one way or the other, or hypnotize him, But he went. But he'll go. He's talking with the opposition. He's trying to connect with the people in Iran as he's killing them. He says, "Well, has anybody left want to make a deal?" That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So you have to do that. You can't be so. I don't think it's right to be so. I would never talk to them. That kind of a thing.
Well, right. Well, like I like to use the version of reality that I like to relate it to is like, okay, you get divorced, you hate her guts or whatever. You have kids. Guess what? You're talking to her. And she's going to talk to you, vice versa. There is no shutting down, and I mean you can, but there are consequences to shutting down. But you get the point. Like you have to talk to your enemy at some point in time. It's just a fact of life. Doesn't mean you're going to be best friends, but you gotta talk to them at least at some point.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and you don't have to, but if you're the president, you do.
Right.
If you're just running a car dealership in Idaho, well, you can be really selective about who you want to talk.
Ken, your audio is a little weird. I know.
Mine? Okay. Well, I can't do it. Can you hear me? Hey, hi, Alex. Alex just joined us. This is Michael Straw. Can you hear me, Michael?
I can. Yep, I can hear you, both of you.
I think it could be you, Alex. I don't know.
Yeah, yours not coming through clear, Ken, for some reason. I don't know.
So
it's your mic or whatever.
It's a little low on my side too, but I can hear you.
Yeah.
It's just a little low, I think.
Okay, I tried a certain mic, and I like this other one better. So I think
if you see a gain button, don't crack it wide open. Go very, very slowly.
I'm going to try a different microphone. Let's see. Original test. Let's see. Is that any better? No comment. Is that any better? I hope that's better.
I can hear you.
You can hear me now, right? Yeah, right? Okay, good. So, okay, Alex is here and you were here. I had some interesting things I was pulling up on the invite, and I put them all with little clicks so I can share them fairly fast. Let me see what they were. just to refresh my mind. This is the topics of, first of all, the extinction fertility rate. That's hit the news. I mean, it's not a news story, but it's good to review that. I think it got some current coverage. And then the other one, of course, is the Voting Rights Act, which is, people have different viewpoints on it. So let's go. Let's flip a coin and get started on it. Alex, you want to go over? And Alex is, you came up with the thing, what you wanted to talk about, but I couldn't find the reference. What was it, the thing you gave me a link to?
What?
Yeah.
Why women aren't having kids
Richard Wolf. Okay,
in the U.S.
So that's the fertility problem.
Yeah.
I should make a video on it myself. I got my own reality on what it is.
Wow.
But, I don't want to it's not fair for me to try to knock down my reputation because there's not much left. So, it's like kicking something in the gutter to the curb. So anyhow, but let's take a look at some of these and then we'll discuss them. I'll play 2 or 3 and then we'll go in. I won't do the full 3 or 4. So let me get this up. And I always have problems with sharing, but I'll try to do a better job. Advance, make sure the sound is okay. And I always work with portion of the screen works best for me. So I think this is it. Now I got to move the screen over to. Do I have to move the screen over? Let's see.
Lowest fertility rate in the world.
For every 100 South Koreans, there will be 4 great-grandchildren.
Right. Like, there's never been a plague that has knocked out that many people.
A 96% extinction rate over the next 100 years.
It's incredible.
Of Koreans. Remembering that we shut down the entire world for something that kills 1 to 2% of people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's the most incredible evolutionary bottleneck that we're going through. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but South Korea, you'll know, has the lowest fertility rate in the world.
For every 100 South Koreans, there will be 4 great-grandchildren.
Right. Like, there's never been a plague.
Okay, wait, let me just adjust this thing. Can't seem to grab the screen. What is it doing?
I can't remember the numbers exactly, but
Come on, baby. There we go. I don't know what this is here. Okay, let's just do it this way. Play this once again. This is this guy is a very good interviewer. It's a young British, charming guy. That's the host.
South Korea, you'll know, has the lowest fertility rate in the world.
For every 100 South Koreans, there will be 4 great-grandchildren.
Right. Like, there's never been a plague that has knocked out that many people.
A 96% extinction rate over the next 100 years.
It's incredible.
Of Koreans. Remembering that we shut down the entire world for something that kills 1 to 2% of people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's the most incredible evolutionary bottleneck that we're going through. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but South Korea, you'll know, has the lowest fertility rate in the world.
For every 100 South Koreans, there will be 4 great-grandchildren.
Right. Like, there's never been a plague that has knocked out that many people.
A 96% extinction rate over the next 100 years.
It's incredible.
Of Koreans. Remembering that we shut down the entire world for something that kills 1 to 2% of people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's the most incredible evolutionary bottleneck that we're going through.
Okay, and let me put up another one here. This is a good old friend of ours. Do you guys see a black thing across what you're looking at?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a black bar,
Right
Yeah,
there.
part of the, I don't know why that's
screen
showing.
artifact or something.
No, that's from the Zoom.
Oh.
So I don't know why it's doing that. Okay, just give me a second here and I'll get rid of it. Get rid of this. Okay, so I'll stop the sharing for a second. So that's disappeared. That's over there. And now I'll do the sharing. Oh, I'll move this over here. And move that down here. So anyhow, just a comment on that. That British guy was, I don't know who the lady was, but South Korea is the worst listening. I'm going to come up with a graph on the worst decline in fertility. And it's saying, like, there hasn't been a plague, even a bubonic plague wasn't this severe in the deterioration of, like, sort of like you turn around if you're Rip Van Winkle and you wake up and there's nobody out there because nobody's having any kids, and the rest of them, they moved to Florida, so, there's nobody left. Okay, so let's see if I can show you the next one. This is just the same comment by Elon Musk. So let's see what he has, how he says it. Share. And I've got to get it. And there it is. And there's that damn thing there again. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh, there we go. I was able to move that. Okay, so here he is. And let's go, Elon. Come on.
Oh.
Let me try this. Now, what's wrong with the sound here?
Well, Musk is personally obsessed with, repopulating the world by himself.
Well, no. His thing.
He's one of those natalist nut jobs.
Well, come on. No, well, Alex is, by the way, in case one didn't know, he's very good at calling names that have no relevance to anything. Here's a guy with
he would cop to it. I mean,
he's got 5 businesses going in top drawer, whatever he touches. But he's a maniac, right? He's an idiot. So anyhow, he's just covering the same thing with South Korea. And you go there, they're down like 1.2 or something. So they're not going to last long unless they change their.
Well, I mean, the first thing I think about that when I see that, because it's not just them, it's Japan too. It's in China, and it's us, it's everybody across the world. How bad it is depends on what group you read or whatever. But I mean, we live in a society that values individual choice, and that's part of the game, I guess. I don't know. I know that there's a massive female population in South Korea that they're just done with the data. Like if you're a single guy here in America, anywhere above 20 to 60 or whatever, I don't know, the dating world for you, or particularly younger, to be clear, like, people don't really date nowadays. Like, it's the dating app. There's like it's just not great. It's not in a great spot where it is, and people are miserable, whatever. But my understanding is the culture over there for dating is like 10 times worse on the worst day that it could ever be over here, like compared to the U.S. to the point to like where they have like whole sub niches of grouping and culture around it about not dating and not having kids and things like this. I might be fairly low fidelity on my details here, but that's my understanding. But it goes with the territory. I mean, if you want your population to have more family units and all that basic unit of civilization, of society, of Western civilization anyway, then you got to do like what Finland does or whatever, like where our Eastern European country, they did something where they incentivized it with like taxes, and like if you had over a certain amount of kids or whatever, then you have to pay tax. I can't remember what the incentive was, but it was something along these lines. But that can only go so far. But I don't know. I'll be quiet and I'll listen in to see what other people think.
Well, okay, Alex, what do you got you don't have any, Alex?
What?
Do you have any children you brought into the world?
No.
As far as you know, right?
Yeah.
So don't forget, you never know for sure.
I have 2 kids, by the way. So.
But when you were growing up, most of us were confronted with the American standard of, grow up, get a degree, finish high school, go to college, get a degree, get married, buy a house, buy a car, have kids, send them to college. That's what you're supposed to do. And then you wind up with a respectful funeral somewhere and a nice stone. Or you could be cremated if you like, and then the world goes on. But one of your obligations is to participate in the community and bring forward some children so that, someone else is going to suffer after you're gone. You're not going to leave anybody here to have all the problems that you went through. It's why fight? And my last comment on that was, this is from like about 12 years ago. A phrase came up called DINKS, which stood for double income, no kids. And I think it was in the 70s that you would get young people in the 30s or 40s, both a lawyer and an accountant or whatever they were. They were both bringing in an income, and they had no kids. Maybe they had some cats or a dog or two, but no kids. And they were living in a condo on the 40th floor of some building in Manhattan or in San Francisco. And, going to, I've forgotten the name of the current rock and roll festival, like it's the Burning Man, or, doing exotic things like that, and going to Angkor Wat and touring around the world. And I have one or two friends that are well off, but they only have one kid or two kids at the most. And here, this chart I put up that you're sharing, you see that it's the, the big U.S., Russia, China, down below, unsustainable. Even Bangladesh and Indonesia just make it. Brazil is too low. But then these other countries have a high fertility rate, and they're not advanced countries. So they're going to create a boom or a bust in demanding what do you call it? Immigration into these other countries like Europe and the U.S. And maybe China's got the doors closed. It's hard to become a citizen there, but so that's me. I shouldn't make that comment. So what's your viewpoint on it, Alex? Even if your choice, it's not happening with you, what do you think should be people's responsibility for that?
Well, you need, government help to, childcare in particular, in terms of government funded, which again, a lot of Europeans, democratic socialist countries like, Sweden and France do on a pretty big, and they have higher rates of fertility than we do, and then, countries that don't do that. I mean, but I think the main reason again, which again, you saw in the clip I sent you, is that the fact that most families you need I assume your family can, you need two incomes in the family to get by. So obviously, if both the wife and husband are working, that that puts a serious crimp on having kids and how many you can have. I mean,
Well, do you think that
the whole thing where, like some farming family again had like, 6 or 7 kids. That's because, there was a housewife, to take care of do all the childcare. And then, but to contribute also to the, upkeep of the house and the farm and so on. So, well, yeah, but wages just aren't enough for, one spouse to basically support the family with their paycheck, unless you happen to be some kind of executive, and that's why some of them, and a lot of those cases again, they're also like, yeah, they're hiring servants and so on, or some kind of domestic help essentially for. So yeah, so it goes back to what can you afford kids, and especially with things like student debt that younger people get into just to have their education, and that's another thing Europe does better on, because typically this goes in Greece again, the state totally funds your tuition I mean, and often again provides like not a subsidy, stipend for, your living expenses as well with, if you get into, one of their universities. So it's basically a government, and, they understand that we don't want, 20 something year olds to be, coming out of their college education, deeply in debt. Also, they make much better decisions in terms of like what jobs they go into, um, if they don't have that, debt burden. And of course, we have, a lot of debt in general, again, not just college debt, but, like for your car and so on. Americans are deeply, since the 70s have gone deeply in debt. So we're, credit cards and all that. So and that has an influence on whether you can, literally afford to have, two or more kids. I mean, and from my friends, again, I can't think of any couple that's had, well, maybe one or two that have had like more than two kids. So, which again is technically under the replacement rate if you just have two, you want to a 2.3 or 2.1 or whatever. So you want an average on more than, two kids per couple, essentially.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to present some information to alert you to what's really happening in Europe. But what do you think about that, Mike? Do you think it's
But
more personal responsibility of individuals, despite what's going on, or is it totally on the shoulder of the governments?
I think that I personally do not blame any young person for how they vote or think today if they have to make it into society and whatever. But um, I do think I think that I think that government plays a role. I would disagree with the level of the social safety net and the loving embrace of the nanny state on the in the EU. They we probably don't need to go that far, but we probably need to do maybe a third of that. I'm just making up arbitrary things like because ours is probably too bare. This is too bare. And it's also grown up over time to not. It hasn't been corrected over time to help sustain it like it needs to be done. Like if we're gonna have Social Security or whatever, I'm not gonna go into the whole thing, but I think that Europe, the EU, has that amazing display of equality in their societies, and they even have more equitable credit. Like in France, the credit system is not like how it is over here, and it's also different in other European countries. Those countries, that was because they lived off the largesse of our security, of the security that we did, and we did pick up the bill quite a bit for that security to enable them to have that kind of a social state. I don't think that we need to go that far, but at the same time, in order for it to be palatable to America, like for something like that would be like national service or something would be like a civilian like a triple C or quadruple C or whatever it was back in the civilian corps when they just put a bunch of young men to work during the FDR days, the New Deal, whatever. That's what it is, New Deal. If you give something, the whole point is if you show up and you serve, you give something, you should get something. And I think I would be okay with that. I think a lot of people that, but I would. I don't know. I feel like it's not their fault that they have to come up and they just all. I think that young people see the mistake that they see in my generation and others, going all the way back to like where you embrace technology. What does it get you? It gets you more work, and it gets you in diminishing returns of a career or trappings of a you know grew up, you had your mom, if you stay home mom or whatever, or didn't need two incomes, or you could, that's not a thing, And I also think that we have a lot more. We are a very, we live in a very luxurious time, and I mean that our luxury time in America, we have so much time and wealth that we have our vast parts of our population can just, pardon my language, fuck off all day online and be entertained and basically you come up with like the latest like fucking team sport that you got to be on to fight against or whatever, this bullshit. Anyway, we have such a luxury of time. That's a fucking problem. That we actually have psychosis and fucking psychological fucking diagnoses and shit that are brand new and being written for that, like this thing that we have or whatever. But anyway, I mean, it's somewhere in between, I guess. I don't know. Like, I think it's fucked up to like to tell young people to like do this. Like when, you know, I'm in my 40s. Like, I feel like I kind of just made it out. I was like one of the last ones to make it out to buy a house. You know, like that's what I kind of feel like. And I live in, you know, and I'm a little bit more an asterisk in all of this because I work in tech. Some of the things that are in tech they kind of warp the rules for how much you make, and I'm certainly not rich at all, but I'm not hurting either, right? Like I don't have to worry about what the fucking fuel gauge says on my car because I gotta, you know, my fat ass I remote into work every day, you know, so life is a little bit
Mark,
different.
Are you out in California or
no? I'm in St. Louis. I'm in
okay.
Yeah. So, but neither here nor there.
Fuel prices, so I know.
Yeah. Even if I did, well, even if I did have to commute every day, like, okay, we still got to pay that. You got to put gas in the tank. Anyway, so pull back to center because I'm kind of all over the place. But I would like to see us do something and help them out. Like, I'm not. I voted for Trump, you know, and I generally support the right side of the thing. But you know what that looks like. I think that, you know, we got to do something to offset some of this bullshit. I mean, some kind of way. Like, I mean, if we don't do something, I mean, I just don't. I'm not happy. I think a lot of people are not happy with the way it is or whatever. You know,
no, definitely not. Yeah.
Okay, we got to do a little survey here. And
I mean, there's Ken. I don't know if you've seen this.
What?
Or something like that. These are typical here. Like this is from this, you know, World in Data. So again, this correlates GDP per capita with
zoom in
rates.
Zoom in.
Yeah.
We can't see that little on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, there's so those are dollar bills on the bottom. What's that about?
So you can see again, like all the countries that are richer are under that too, you know. Whether it's China or So like almost everybody making over 20, and again there are just for exceptions like Israel, which obviously has the large, you know, both Arab but also you know, ultra Orthodox, who of course, you know, have as many kids as they, and even there again, you know, like 2.83 births per woman.
That's it for the Orthodox?
Or Saudi Arabia again is just 2.2, just above replacement.
Well, Saudi Arabia's population,
the U.S.
40. Do you know 40% of Saudi Arabia's population at any given point in time are
guest workers? Yeah,
slaves.
But here you can even see like Norway here 1.4 again. It's pretty low, and again they have 98K. They are. Well, I mean, like Singapore is like among the lowest.
Okay, so can you discern any pattern here?
But here, well, again, that just you can see the trend line. It's like basically higher per capita GDP if you have less kids. Like essentially, it's, you know, and that works within population groups. Like when they look like within a country.
No, it's the other way around.
Well, if you're wealthier, you tend to have fewer kids.
Stop talking. The lower the GDP, the higher the fertility rate.
Yeah.
The Congo has a high fertility rate.
Right.
Mali, high fertility rate. Over here on the right, where you got the high GDP, you got a low fertility rate.
Yeah.
So it's just the opposite.
You can't spend money.
Like Kazakhstan that has a pretty decent.
You can't spend money when you're poor, but you can fuck.
Right. I'm sure it's also,
I apologize for my crude.
obviously things change with, uh,
No, I don't. I think
the
I don't. I think that's a Western reality. An elitist viewpoint from the left. Oh, it's all economics. I don't think so. But I just want to point out something, Dennis. Before we go forward, I got to do this fast survey. I'll start to tell you what I mean. I've got cousins that are my age, or in a range of, well, most of them are older than me. But one of them had 2, 3 kids, 4 kids, and one of those kids got married and had 5 kids. He went to Israel, became a rabbi. And so their family, it's like a football team. When they get together for a family picture, it's like 20 people. And other families I know like that. On my wife's side, I know another family like that. They have 4 kids. They live in Long Island, and one of the women, one of them has, I think it's 4 kids, but they're brokers, hedge fund and in Manhattan. So it does tend to be, if you can afford it, you can do it. Like Elon Musk has 12 kids because, whoever he meets on the weekend, he says, how many kids can you make, And he's got so many wives and kids, nobody even discusses it. But I'm talking about, what I'm saying is, I only have 2 kids, but I get jealousy or feel an emptiness when I see my relatives. They have a clan. They have a family that's a whole entity. It's not just 3 kids, one's on drugs, the other's in the Senate, and this guy went to West Point, but this guy is stealing cars. It's not just it's a whole group of people. And the value of it is that you belong to a group. You don't have to do anything to be accepted in that group. In fact, when I was growing up, when I was a kid, they used to have a thing called Family Circle, which was like a private company that would organize meetings between large segments of families as they extended out, the broader families. So you get together and all of a sudden you're part of this group of cousins and second cousins and third cousins, and you are part of a tribe, let's say, or a group. People you can meet in the street, or you can go, hey, let's go play basketball, or come on to this party. You're social. You have a society that you belong to. So that's something. It doesn't matter how much you're making, whether you work for the government, or you don't work for the government, or you're just selling sunglasses on the side of the road. It's like, how many kids do you have? And part of it, I feel the major thing analytically is the ascension of feminism. And where women, yes, women were working, women have always been working historically, but a lot of them were home, processing food to sell to the community. They were more like home oriented. But as women started moving into management, because we don't want to suppress them, it eliminates stay-at-home moms. So you'll have women who are career-oriented, like my cousin, the one who's working as a broker. And she has a full-time nanny taking care of the kids, and she sees them every night and sometimes on the weekend, her own kids, because the nanny sees them the most, and because she can afford it. But I'm just saying that the more women in the work field are in the Congress and so forth and so on, the less stay-at-home mothers raising a family. And we see that more in rural areas. And just one other factor in it, to be honest, I'm not a strongly religious advocate for any particular religious organization like Catholicism or Presbyterian or Orthodox Jews or Reformed Jews or Baha'i or Buddhist or any of those. They're all fine, it's good. But they seem to be there. That seems to be the main drive for getting to encouraging families. Like Mormons, you get, who's going to promote having kids? Mormons and Seventh-day Adventists and the Dutch, the Amish, and of course Catholics, no birth control. So it seems to, because you do have to give credit whether you think it's a mystical fantasy concept that the religion is pushing. It is in the spectrum of spirituality as opposed to, you know, knocking nails into wood in the physical universe. It's spiritual. It's more about humanity and what's your purpose and what are you doing and what's your obligation to mankind and God who's watching you and so forth. What is it? What are you trying to do? What do you want to make with your life, other than being able to own a jet plane? So so the survey I wanted was, tell me about your cousins. Anybody you know who has more than 2 kids.
I do, yeah.
Personally.
My cousin Yota has 3 kids in Greece, so
In Greece, just one?
yeah,
One cousin?
3 kids.
Just 3 kids? Are they grown up?
Just 3. They grew up there, yeah.
Oh, do they have kids?
Oh, no, the oldest one is 17 now, so they're not
Oh,
getting
they're
married
pretty
yet.
young.
I don't think so.
So you don't have any cousins yet with an extended family yet?
Yeah, no. None of my cousins have, grandkids. They're not,
What
I
about
mean, they're in their 40s or 50s, so, and
yeah, they're not going to start now, huh?
well, they may in the near future, but none of them have, none of my cousins' kids have gotten married yet, as of,
So, okay, but just from that one sample of the cousin who has 3 kids, how is that working for him? Is he enjoying it or is it driving him crazy?
She,
She.
she's mostly a stay-at-home mom, yeah. And the husband works in IT for a
Oh,
company in Greece.
yeah. Okay,
So,
Mike, what do you got?
tech.
You got
I'm the
cousins.
oldest of 9.
Ah, there you go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
9 kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I was one of those weird families, the religious one that you were talking about a little bit. I
Yeah.
was kind of joking, but yeah, I got a lot of cousins. Most of them only have 2 or 3.
Yeah.
My family's also unusual because of my family's very diverse. My dad's sister met a Saudi Arabian man in the 80s and they got
Oh, wow.
married, and they had my
Yeah.
cousins, and no,
Mhm.
they had 2 kids. The daughter had, I did not mean to do that. I need to turn that off. The daughter, Mazel Tov. The daughter had, Reem had 4 kids, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Tarek only had 1. But yeah, but I have other cousins my brothers and sisters, like they did not have, I only had 2. And then my brother has 1. And
Yeah.
then my sister has another one. And then the vast majority of them they don't have kids yet. And my brother's probably gonna have some more. My sister probably isn't. I don't know, but
So, so you could say there's another indication of as we move younger in a family, it's like our parents had 9 kids.
yeah,
My family,
Yeah,
had, like,
our grandparents.
parents,
yeah.
my aunts and uncles all over the place.
None of the girls, none of the females in my family grew up and wanted to be like my mom. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Not that there's
9
anything wrong
kids,
with my mom or whatever, but my mom wanted to be a homemaker. That's what she wanted to do,
Yeah.
and that's what she was very good at, but because there are so many of us, I think that we all kind of grew up and wanted to be our own little people, and like kind of there are 2 kinds of kids in my family, of my siblings. There's the ones that split, went to make a life somewhere else, and the ones that stayed a little closer to home. So it's about 50-50 on that, but
Are your parents immigrants to the U.S.?
no, no.
They were
No.
born here.
Yeah.
Okay, so but were they still old world? Like were they first year? Their parents?
No. There's normal Americans, just whatever. Like they got the my mom's side they came from Ohio, and they're all German from the 1800s or whatever. And then my dad, a similar story, but for the UK or for England or whatever. But they came over through I guess through Illinois or whatever. But yeah, but that's like both sides of each half. But
So it isn't a cultural change in terms of
no, it was just like my mom and my dad were just they believed in Christianity and they wanted to be devout, and they kind of hopped around a little bit, but they eventually found a, that they settled on one, and then kind of settled down and weren't so religious. I have a little bit of a whipsaw from like how true we were to it versus not, to like, I was homeschooled, so that's also another thing that plays in the background here. So
Yeah.
So what's your evaluation in terms of the value of a I don't want to say excessive family, but like a robust family awareness, or field full of cousins and aunts and uncles, and
I think most of them, I think some of them want to have a family, but I think most of them are more happy to just enjoy life as it goes. So some are married, some are, but they're also the funny thing is that their spouse, the ones that are married, tend to be a little bit more religious. And so that religiosity kind of came back, but they didn't pick what my parents settled on. They picked something else, like they picked something off to the side or whatever. But
on more diverse religious following.
yeah, just so Christian. Some are still Christian, but just a little bit off over here or whatever, over there. So, but
nobody who joined that cult in New Guinea. What's the guy's name? John. I don't know the movie. I can't remember names too well.
Was it the Jonestown guy or whatever?
Yeah, Jonestown.
Yeah.
It was him or the flying saucer people.
No.
Yeah.
Thankfully, nothing like that.
So you're saying you could say it varies from individual to individual, but how do you?
Oh yeah. I think so. Like, I think if they do, I mean, it's also like I'm the oldest, and then the youngest is in her 20s, early 20s. So that's a hell of a generational gap. So, but as they're the youngest, my youngest siblings are coming up. They're a little bit older than my kids, but there's that they're running into the whole buzzsaw of like, starting a career or what the hell ever you want to do, or make money or this or that, or so some have a career, some don't. It's just make ends meet what you can. So you ain't, if you're trying to make ends meet, you ain't worried about making a family right now. But the years march on. I'll put that way. That's for sure.
Okay, so I'm going to bring up this other, every country. Let's take a look at all of them. Where's the damn button for the share button? Here it is. Okay. And that's what we're going to do. Share. And here it is. I think. Oh, yeah, you see it, right? You could see this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make it a little bit larger so you can read it. So we start at Morocco.
No, that's Monaco, not Morocco.
Okay, yeah, not Morocco, Monaco. And this is the highest fertility rate in Europe that's sustainable officially, 2.1. But as we go in all of these crazy places, Gibraltar, Montenegro, Bulgaria, Moldova, Romania, France, Ireland, Slovenia, and there's your socialist quote. They don't like being called socialists, by the way.
I thought they didn't care. I thought most European countries didn't even bat an eye at that.
No, I've heard officials from Sweden and Norway say we're capitalist countries.
I see. Yeah.
I got somebody else coming in, I think. Oh yeah, it's Mr. Dingman. So hello, Jim. So Romania, France, Ireland, Slovenia, Slovakia, the UK 16155 per woman. This is the number of children a woman has in her lifetime, the average for that country at this time. And Kosovo is back there to the old, around Yugoslavia, Liechtenstein. Denmark is lower than England. Denmark, Iceland, Portugal, Serbia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Hungary, Croatia, those are Eastern Europe. And North Macedonia, I didn't know there was a North and South. Czechoslovakia, I guess.
Where's Spain at? I keep trying to find Spain. Unless I pass. Oh, okay, I see him. All right.
We
Just
could-
curious.
Yeah, where is it? Oh, there it is, down to 1.22. Hey,
Right.
you know what? I saw some ancillary YouTube videos about covering this and saying, like, you can go to Spain and you can buy a castle because these towns are getting evacuated because there's nobody there. So the real estate is empty. They leave. You know, you're obligated, if you buy it, you could buy a castle for $1,000, but then you're obligated to renovate it. But you can get houses there, and you'll see if you watch these international house hunting programs, you'll see that the prices for houses are less expensive in areas in Spain and Italy and maybe Poland and France, maybe areas that have been evacuated in terms of loss of population. And there was one guy in Tokyo that's famous because he made mannequins, like cloth dummies of people, to populate the neighborhood, the city, because the town, everybody was going. And now it's 90% of the census in that town is these little dummies, these little mannequins. So it's only 10% of living people, but he was just getting too nuts. But so it's not better in Europe or any socialist country. Poland, Finland, Italy's kind of socialist. It's got a big, you know,
I think it was Finland that I always remember that I read about. They have try to spark.
Yeah, I heard France was trying to give people take a longer lunch, go home, see the wife, you know, give them time during the day, and give them incentives to have kids. Because the other option on it is, this is fertility rates, but if you don't have it, like Michael was saying, you need to have a younger population to generate income and consume things, keep the economy going, to provide Social Security for the retirees, the people that retire, to not only to take over the functionality that retired people leave behind, but also to create enough of an economy to support the burden of the legacy of people who retire.
Social Security.
Yeah, so what's going to happen if they're not being born there? They're going to be they're going to come in. They're going to be in. The country's going to have a better, less lenient standards on immigration, and so like in London now, I think it's 30 or 40% from India. You know, it's high. So, and what that does is it changes the culture. Like I live in, you know, LA takes on a very Latino atmosphere because of the immigration that we have in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
It's 40% Latino. So there's a lot of low riders and taco stands and so forth. And it's a cultural thing.
Well,
so everybody's kind of comfortable with it here, but it wouldn't necessarily be comfortable with it if it was a different culture that was immigrating, and which is happening across the U.S. with Islamic immigration and maybe some others. I don't know.
Well,
you know,
I thought
just not on the same scale, but yeah. Well, you know, we've had South Asians and
but
people
anyhow,
from the Middle East coming here for a long time.
So this is a topic, but there hasn't been any legislation in the U.S. Addressing this that I'm aware of.
Well, there's stuff against us again, like the anti-immigration stuff doesn't, because who within the U.S. it's the recent immigrants who have most kids. But go on, Jim.
No. Hey, how's it going, Michael? Long time no see.
Oh, good. Good to see you.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I was listening to Piers Morgan today, and they're having this big. And I have to say, usually, sometimes I don't agree with Piers, but I must admit that whenever I've been in London, it was like a very cool place to be. I mean, you know, and look, Kenny, you grew up in New York. Michael, I don't know where you live in St. Louis, right, Michael? Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know how demographically or culturally diverse. I mean, a lot of American cities in the central part of the United States have the impact of all the different ways of migration. But London was a very cool place, and all this nonsense that's being overrun by Muslims. I mean, I just find that such complete bullshit. Um, and and here you see the issue with the demographics. I mean, this is where this whole question of migration comes into play, because what you've got all these people who come in, and the illegal people who come into the United States, if they're working, and getting taxed or like some of them pay Social Security, they're not going to benefit from that because they're not American citizens. So sometimes I find some of these arguments a little ridiculous because we do need new groups of people coming in, and look at the low fertility rates you show in those countries. I mean, it's a real serious problem. I mean, and I know you're a Malthusian, Ken. So, like,
Yeah.
I mean, you're a big time Malthusian. I mean, shit, you got M written on your face, baby. So, I don't know. I mean, it's like, it's sort of the cohorts of younger people is, and that's an interesting question. And I think the London stats are about 36% are white. I'm looking at them right now. Um, Black African, 8%, Indian, there's a lot of mixed race individuals in London, Asian, black, mixed, other ethnic groups, white residents. But London's like, it reminds me of, like not as much of New York. I mean, New York still has a large amount in the metro area of white Americans. I mean, they're basically out in the burbs. But then you look at Manhattan. Manhattan's filled with like white folks and black people. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The difference in England is that what they did when they built public housing is they split it up and put it into upper income neighborhoods, which I think is a smart thing to do. And so council housing, sometimes, low income public housing, you'll find in the most amazing places that are unexpected, like the Upper East Side, the middle of the Upper East Side, you see this public housing project that has ultra modern design. It's very different than the United States, but that's because these areas were blown up by the Germans in World War II.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, but it's a question of how many people in the U.S. What's the percentage of people in the U.S. that were born in an outside country? It's not a question.
we could find that out. We could just look at
It's
that up.
20 or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well, we
about
could.
15%. What is that? It's about 15%. So it's a question of, like some politician pointed this out, it's not a question of change, it's a question of speed of change. Going from fossil fuels to ecological, sustainable sources of energy. It's not a question of how severe the change is. It's a question of how rapid the change is, tomorrow. So, tomorrow you have to have an electric car or you're not going to go anywhere, It's got to be slower to move towards something and slower to accept and integrate or assimilate different cultures, especially if the cultures don't have a history of being similar to what's in the country. Yeah, the United States, and specifically New York, is very diverse, which was mostly best illustrated by the Men in Black, that movie series. They say, why are they all these aliens here in New York? Because they don't stand out that much, all the aliens in the movie. It was very funny. People looking like an octopus man and so forth. You say, well, that's New York. What do you expect? But it's a question of, let's say, as an example, Jim, let's say you had a mass migration from Georgia and Tennessee into New York in 2 weeks. 4 million people moved to New York from the South. How would that go? How good would that be? Are they accommodating to like the liberal attitudes that you have in New York, or one would have? I have friends like that love the diversity and all the different cultures and all the different restaurants and different people. But if it was, if they were overwhelmed by somebody who was not that empathetic towards diversity, it'd be annoying. Like the Germans up in the Upper East Side, where they had the Bunds. they're not as tolerant of diverse societies. I mean, maybe that's a racist thing to say about the Germans, but I don't, there's a gradient still in cultures as to how much of an open door you have to different cultures. Most New Yorkers, I think, are tend to consider themselves to be citizens of the world, more than citizens of New York. Although there was that famous cover of the New Yorker, that kind of indicated what's going on in New York. Remember that, Jim? The way, here's New York.
Well, yeah, but most America, and it's true that some idiot New Yorkers think like that. It's true.
Yeah.
But I mean, they just haven't been around. First of all, I have to say that I've lived around the United States.
Yeah.
I do love average Americans. I really do. I really do. And and I like to be around people who I like the South. I like Texans. I get a big kick out of Texans. So a lot of the New Yorkers, of course, have stupid ass, narrow-minded attitudes towards the rest of the country. And they deserve to get the bullshit they get from other Americans about that. They fully deserve that.
Yeah.
Fully. And Michael, you're
I'm
laughing.
walking here.
No, it's true because they come out with this, like they've never lived outside New York. They have totally stereotypical attitudes towards Southerners.
Yeah. Or
And it just
foreigners. Yeah.
but again, I'm talking about the sort of people who never lived the upper West Side. They're sort of in the little bubbles, like sort of out of a Woody Allen movie. Really, it's true. I mean, I've been around people like that all my life, and then of course you got the sort of down home, working class Italian American, Jewish. Right? What's that? What are you playing, Ken? What the fuck is that?
Sorry for that.
You playing the slots while we're talking? Really?
No.
I'm just kidding.
Popped in there when I was looking for something. Go ahead.
All right.
They're gone. It's gone now.
Well, and it's funny. I've been reading this new book. I'm going to get this author who did this new book about Bernie Getz. Very interesting. Very interesting. Actually, Michael, it'd be interesting.
The guy who's a Times reporter, Jim, or the other guy?
No, the woman who teaches at the University of Michigan. Okay. And because I remember when it happened, and like everybody I was around, Kenny, you were out of New York. Guys were buying. I mean, I could buy. People were selling Saturday night specials in the early '70s here in New York. Like you could buy a revolver for $200, and like everybody said, look, you got to deal with these fucking criminals, and you want to have a throwaway piece, shit like that. And I remember when he blew those kids away, in the subway car. I sort of said, look, I've been dealing with all sorts of obnoxious punk behavior for all my life, and I'd seen things like that happen. I've been in subways. It's sort of like when the guy strangled that dude on the F train. The guy became
right.
Here. And like, how many times have I seen shit like that?
Marine, yeah.
Yeah, the Marine. And how many times have I seen shit like that? And here's this dude who got ripped off, very freaked out, coming in with the piece he bought in Florida, and waiting for an accident to happen. And they blew those 3 or 4 kids away. Now, whether they're trying to rip him off or not, that was the big dispute that occurred. But, he was so, trying to recycle his Charles Bronson imitation when he did that shit. And it's just, and so I'm reading it right now because it reminded me of how nuts it was in New York at that period of time.
Yeah.
Because people thought he was a great hero. Now, yeah, sure. If somebody actually stands their ground and, because I was working in a factory before that time, and guys would periodically shoot people, okay? They'd periodically shoot people that tried to rip them off, and they didn't give a flying fuck. Because where I worked, the particular union was dominated by one of the crime families. All the Teamster Union locals at that time in my life in New York City were all dominated by the crime families. I was actually elected. They were going to elect me to be the shop steward, and then of course the mafia wasn't going to put up with me. So they I figured, okay, I'm not going to fuck with the mafia. There's a little bit of tolerance. So I don't know the question of assimilation and all that. I mean, what does it mean to be an American? what does it mean to, how are we dealing with all these quote people who come from other parts of the world, and anybody reads about the history of the United States, there's always these crazy assimilations that occur. There always are. I look at my family. Part of my family came as indentured servants before the 7 Years' War. They were basically indentured slaves in New Jersey cutting down timber for the Royal Navy. Now, one of them they went through their indenture, so they weren't slaves. They weren't like chattel slaves like a black person was, because slavery, of course, was in New Jersey in the early 17th century, 18th century, excuse me. But then they wound up in Pennsylvania as farmers. Now, they assimilated, but they were, and then the other parts of my family, some of them came, like at the time of the Pilgrims, who knows. But all Americans have all sorts of different backgrounds that they have in them in terms of their assimilation into our culture. And, I guess this whole thing about fertility rates, I have no idea why you guys were talking about it, but it just, that's why migration happens. That it's necessary to get younger cohorts of people in who can help pay the Social Security of these older people. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. The reason why we're covering it, or it's getting some further attention in the news or in YouTube, is because if the fertility rate of the population, whether they're born here or not, goes below, it's down to 1.2, then in about 3 generations, there's nobody left. It declines very fast.
I know that I was aware of this population being a concern across the board, really dependent upon whatever. But I thought really the trouble was really going to come in 2100 when China collapses in on itself. India does too. Other ones do as well, whatever. But that's like, it's a projection, right? Who knows? But not a good, not a good.
Because I know maybe robotics and AI will mean nobody will need to work. So who knows? By then, it's gonna be different.
We are just walking into a what was that? A shining like maze in the middle of winter with this AI and social media and people. Like there's going to be, you just wait and see. There's going to be a huge twisted part, not a huge one, but I think there's going to be a cohort of people, younger people, that are going to just be lost because the AI can respond back to you, and it can placate you when it can do this and that and all the next thing and whatnot. And I don't think that people understand the magnitude and the scale that AI has taken over the world. It's already taken over the world 3 or 4 times already. And what I mean by that is, if you go by the stats, when OpenAI turned on their service and started taking people's money for a subscription, that was one of the fastest growing platforms ever, period. End of discussion. Like that's like it, like Facebook. What? It's only been magnified from there. Like there are hundreds of millions of users every day that wake up they log into OpenAI and they whatever. Like I don't think that we can do anything about it. I just think because it's so new, but I think that is a concern that is not going to help the population whatsoever, because you have so many things that you can just go spend your time on. You can go download a retro game. You can go argue, you can go do this, you can go do that. You can do it, anything, but go talk to another human being and have a drink and get a little, little XOXO going on, like old times, because there's more things to do. Why do that when you can just sit at home and, you don't have to, everything can come to you. It's part of the thing. Anyway, I'm just ranting, but
yeah. Online. Ken, you're muted.
part of a conversation can easily fall towards the consequences of AI, but there are, it's a topic of its own in a sense, because it so covers all aspects, right? But it's not original. It's all based on existing materials.
It can generate original. It can generate original enough, novel, new words, or new phrasings or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what generative AI means. It means that it's the corpus is all of human work, true, but it can create its own, new things, whatever. That's why it's generative. It's literally in the title, generative AI. It can generate new whatever.
Is that like a woman with 3 breasts or 4 breasts?
Yeah.
Is that kind of, it could just.
Well, there's been. That's how you know some of the AI photos are fake.
Now,
extra arms and. Yeah.
Well, now that was in the early days. Nowadays, that there are so good at creating new synthetic images and whatnot that they're indistinguishable for certain real JPEGs, like the digital thing. I mean, it's grown quite a bit since the like the funny little third or 10th finger or something coming off of it. Like it's insane how quick it's accelerated since that point.
Sure, because it's got an unlimited work field, like everybody can use it, right?
As in it's accessible to everybody, or
yeah, it's accessible, so everybody can subscribe and then have and ask or request different 4-headed dragons and so forth.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a China is actually learning from. Sorry, I don't mean to derail your thing. China is. I'll just say this, and I'll put a button on it. But China is essentially copying what early big tech did in the .com era and going out to the early 00s and 2010s, which was you develop this product that's really good and free, and then you get the data. That's essentially what China is doing through DeepSeek, through their AI versions of companies. They just make it free, and they have a very generous free tier. And then if you're so-and-so, you come on and you say free AI, and oh, by the way, it can do all these other things. And they're probably 80 to 90% as good as, the big our versions or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
being in time, Mike, I mean, you must. Well, we've seen again that open architecture generally has been closed over the whole history of the computer industry. I mean, whether it's Microsoft versus Apple or the rest
Because
of
Jim just joined us, I want to go back and find out
population
the survey. We agree we're not running away from the AI, but it's really hard to discuss because.
No, I know. I apologize. I did not intend to sidetrack your
No, that's okay.
Right.
I find that one of the major things about it, to me, it's like Bitcoin. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I use AI all the time because it's very, very convenient because I can say, what time does Trader Joe's open on a Sunday and do they have jumbo-sized eggs? And it'll give me an answer and tell me how much it costs. So I can get detailed answers because when I go to Google search, I get like 40,000 answers, but you go to AI, it comes back very specific response.
right. What you want, right? Or what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's very serviceable. It's like like you have an assistant. You give them an assignment.
Yeah, it's like it's the way I like to describe it is it's essentially humanity's ultimate super omni tool, meaning you can tell it this, I want this, and that, and then it'll go, okay, sure, and then it'll go and get all these other things and do the work for you, and then present you with this whatever you were looking for, whatever.
Jim was doing a series of videos about Project 2025. So I wanted an image. So I said, I want this guy driving an old Western wagon with statues of 2025, like made out of concrete, and that's what's in the wagon. And like a cowboy thing, it's like an old thing. It made the picture exactly to my request and gave me a choice of 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So, and that was like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's very specific, and I enjoy watching. There's a really funny YouTube channel called Baby Trump.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah,
It's
I've seen
really
those.
funny. So I
Well,
appreciate
the
that.
Lego ones are pretty good.
It's funny.
Oh, the Iranian
Yeah,
IRGC.
they've done a good job. Yeah.
So Jim, before we were talking about the reality on having a large family or not, how big was your family, and what about your current cousins, and who do you know that has more than 2 kids? Jim, come back. Ask you to unmute. Sometimes Jim,
Tom's on mute.
he might not be there. He might be walking around, but I'm sure he's got a large family because he said they all came on from other countries. So
I
anyhow,
forget. I think he has at least some siblings, but I forget how many.
he's got a lot of siblings.
I don't think it's a lot of, maybe 1 or 2, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think he's gone, whatever, he's in the John or something. So, anyhow, so yes, I don't think this is bad to go off on the AI thing. What I heard was a real big problem with the AI was somebody made requests like, what's the best way to break into this bank and steal the things from the, get the money or the gold or the things in the boxes, the safe deposit box. So they, and they would come up and then give them a good plan. So what happens when you get that kind of a thing? Well, it's just a problem that's got to be solved.
Well, what you just said, that wasn't it that guy like maybe a month ago or whatever, the guy who, I think it was down in Florida, he talked to AI or said, how do I do this? How do I do that? And what would it take to make this to take a mass shooting? How many people would I have to kill in order for it to get national coverage?
Right.
And that was like, I don't know, so many minutes. Yeah, so many minutes before he went and shot up whatever.
Right.
I mean, and the fucked up thing about that was that he was a frequent flyer on being banned and having their safety systems had flagged more than one of his things that were very specific about whatever, and they were concerned about it, and I guess they even called a meeting about it, as far as I know, for what I read. But then they ended up just not doing anything and just banning him again, but didn't stop him from coming back. I mean,
yeah, well, there's a hard thing that was addressed to some degree in Minority Report with the one from Tom Cruise.
Oh, the pre-crime.
Yeah, the pre-crime stuff. First of all, we all have secret wishes, things like that at some point in time. I'd like to do this or that. That would be considered at least misbehavior, if not totally criminal.
That in and of itself is one data point. But if you got this guy, when he's doing this, I do think that OpenAI had a little bit more of a responsibility than just whatever. But to what degree criminally? Yeah. Well, we didn't do shit for putting away people in jail, or when we completely ripped the taxpayer off. So I don't.
Yeah.
No danger of justice being served in that arena.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's an old Chinese proverb: in the afterlife, one tries to avoid going to hell. In this life, one tries to avoid going to court.
Wow. Yeah.
The justice system is totally unpredictable.
Yeah.
They come up with these exceptions, and you didn't follow this, you didn't cross the T, and so forth. Oh, he's insane. Let him off. Let him go. He was insane that not for the whole day, just for the 5 minutes when he was shooting people.
Yeah. We have enough stuff to do. Like, it's just, somebody who needs help or something, they need to get help. And usually, not always, but usually there's somebody else who cares or sees and says, hey, maybe you should go check on that guy, please. whatever. But like that, the insane Nauru, the guy who tried to assassinate Trump, the whatever that few weekends ago at the correspondence dinner. That's what it was.
Well, Mike, there's the one thing about that was maybe if we looked it up, there were 15 guys they interceded, and this is the one guy that got through.
They didn't. I heard all kinds of back and forth about how it should have been and the security and this and that and that. But I just know that the guy was like, he wrote a manifesto or something, and then his brother-in-law or his brother called the cops and was like, "Hey, guys, something ain't good. Nothing nice is gonna happen here."
Right. Wow. But you don't know how many of those they get, every week.
So there's this other thing that we want to move on to. I'll just pull up one short thing just to make it topical. Oh, let me go find it first.
To kind of put a cap on that population thing, I would like to see my government and give a shit about something more than something longer term that would help and be beneficial to my kids and potentially their children and their like that would be nice to have that. But
well, I think they can look. I went all the way through college. I didn't pay anything. I got a scholarship which paid for the gas in my motorcycle and my apartment. But I mean, so I think it's fine. I think it should be applied with a meritorious viewpoint. Make sure that the intelligent, hard-working kids, or who have potential, or just partly potential, get educated.
And this is going to happen regardless. But if you're gonna put so much pressure on people to make money and to exist and whatever, they're going to figure out how to get certifications and knowledge in another way that is not the traditional way that we know or that we were brought up on. Like go to college, go do this, go do that, or do the trades or whatever. Eventually, it'll get to the point to like where you have AI and you have YouTube and all this knowledge and video. And your training could very well be completely automated. And if you go through it and it could be potentially free or something like that ish, I mean,
you know what?
That's the only offset to all of this.
Maybe we could start a company here, Mike. And what's missing there is live intervention or guidance. So like for every 10 people that are going through digital education or that's on internet education as opposed to in-house, at home. But there's somebody checking on them and saying, well, call us if you need help. And I noticed you missed a few sessions, you're falling behind. What do you hang up on? Having a presence and a human intervention and not make it just dry digital.
Yeah.
Because if you ever did, when you get a traffic ticket, they have these, you can do it on the internet. And you have to go through a course. But how do they know that you're actually watching, So, you can have some kind of a human control, a reality thing to keep it in the real world.
Well, I just know that, so my kiddo was diagnosed with autism and just to make a point real quick, but there is this thing that they do called an IEP, which is an individualized education plan. And it's required because if you have a label or diagnosis or whatever, then you can, anyway, it's very effective and it's very successful. But the problem is that you can't do that for every kiddo. The best thing for like public school system would be to have something like that, to like where you could have education tailored to every specific student, and there, obviously there'd be trade-offs to this, but what we have the foundations of this already. We have AI, which can essentially create any kind of a learning environment. If it's software, obviously there's limits to the, obviously what it can do. But if it's digital or something or software, the AI can literally create that on this, like right then and there. And then boom, you have your lab or you have your practical, whatever, your module. But it's getting there. I'm not smart enough to do that, but it'll eventually get there. I think to the point to like where when we have enough smart people enough to figure it out how to use, because you got to remember AI is it's everybody is reinventing how to do things with AI or how to get things to do, how to figure out how to use it. So it's got to be around the corner. It's probably already out. I have no idea, but I would like to see that.
Yeah, but the question is, I'm saying, there's one other factor in here, which is recognition. In other words, let's say you go through some kind of a program, whether it's completely online or somehow integrated with human intervention, but then you get certified by NYU or
Yeah, right.
Yale or Harvard or some college, gives a stamp, says, yep, you got it, and gives you a recognition, so that's something you can put on your resume and say, I've gone through these things.
There's a lot of stuff out there that's starting to get like that. Like it's not all free, but there's like Harvard X and there's other ones. They're growing. State of Georgia has a pretty cool one. There's all kinds that they have out there, but they're some of them still cost a little bit of money, and of course you still have to have a computer and to get online and do stuff. But it's anyway. I don't have anything. Sorry to do your thing, but I think
that's a good point. That's a very good point. Okay, I'm going to play a thing starting here about the Civil Rights Act, which has been torn apart by the crazy Trump administration, which has no respect for anybody. Okay, 1 second.
They don't.
Where's my share button?
Is that a surprise? Is that a surprise, Ken?
No, I was just being sarcastic.
Oh, really? Oh.
I think they were just doing their job, getting rid of the stops and arbitraries that were put in. Okay, so let's take a look at this for, here we go. I'm going to move that out of the way, yeah, and then a little background on what it is. And
in the words of Martin Luther King Jr., it enriches the lives of all Americans.
The Voting Rights Act of 1965 is a very big deal. It transformed America, marking the end of the Jim Crow era and effectively banning racial discrimination in elections.
When Lyndon Johnson came into office, he made black civil rights a priority.
It is to give all our people the right to choose their leaders. To deny this right, I think, is to deny democracy itself.
When Congress passed the Voting Rights Act, I mean, they talked about it as, being this crown jewel, right? Like that they had finally righted a wrong.
The stunning thing about the Voting Rights Act is just how fast it worked. So on the day it was signed, less than 7% of black eligible voters in the state of Mississippi were registered to vote. Just 2 years later, that number was 60%.
But in the past few decades, conservative justices on the Supreme Court have taken major steps towards dismantling it.
The Supreme Court just finished hearing arguments in a major Republican challenge to the Voting Rights Act. This is a case that could gut key provisions that prohibit racial discrimination in redistricting.
He's talking about the Louisiana versus Calais case. At first glance, it might look like yet another scuffle over who gets their way when it comes to drawing electoral maps. But the truth is, there is a lot at stake here, and you should care about it. Because if the plaintiffs in this case get their way, the Voting Rights Act could be erased, and America could be transformed again. But this time, it would tear down more than half a century of voting rights progress.
The Supreme Court is now set to decide not just if Louisiana must keep 2 majority black districts, but whether the Voting Rights Act can continue protecting minority representation nationwide.
So slap on your I voted stickers and get your notebooks out. Because this video is going to take a trip through history to explain how a shifting Supreme Court got us here, and how this case in Louisiana could upend voting rights and political representation for a generation. This is The Docket, a Patreon-exclusive Vox series unpacking the Supreme Court cases that you need to know about. Let's go back in time to 1965. The world got Beatlemania. The Sound of Music was released, governing when an alleged racial gerrymander violates the VRA.
The two most important factors under Jingles, one is whether a state has residential segregation. So, white people tend to live in one part of the state, black people tend to live in another part of the state, and also whether it has racially polarized voting. So, voters of one race tend to vote for the Republican Party, voters of the other race tend to vote for the Democratic Party. And the reason why the Supreme Court honed in on those two factors is that when you have voters clustering together and you also have racial polarization, that tends to produce two separate political communities where it's very easy for whichever racial group is in the majority to essentially cut the other group out of power by just drawing maps where they don't have any representation. And so you need to draw additional black districts, additional Latino districts, additional districts to make sure that that minority group also has representation.
As a result of Jingles, the number of black representatives shot up thanks to the creation of more majority black districts. The second case, which came in 2013, was not so favorable to the Voting Rights Act. One of the key pillars of protection, Section 5, was struck down in a case called Shelby County versus Holder in a 5-4 decision. The result was that states and jurisdictions that used to have racist voting laws passed a number of new voting restrictions that disproportionately affected minority voters.
We saw a flood after the Shelby decision, a flood of laws designed to make it hard just to show up at the polls.
There's a contract most retail traders have never heard of. It's called XSP. It's not a stock. It's not an...
The premise of the Shelby County majority opinion is, well, we don't have all this racism anymore that we used to have in 1965, so we don't need the law that stops the racism that we used to have in 1965.
That left Section 2 as the remaining safeguard to protect the voice of minority voters. Fast forward to 2023. Another gerrymandering case, Allen versus Milligan, is heard by the Roberts Court, now made up of 6 Republican-appointed and 3 Democrat-appointed justices. With the Voting Rights Act on the line once again, the ruling in Milligan upheld essential parts of Section 2 and struck down a racially gerrymandered map in Alabama. Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Kavanaugh voted with the court's liberal minority.
Because this court, or at least its Republican majority, is so hostile to the Voting Rights Act, I think everyone thought they were going to strike down the anti-gerrymandering provisions, overrule Jingles, allow Alabama to have whatever maps Alabama wanted. And everyone, including me, was shocked when that didn't happen.
I wanted to take a second to thank our Patreon members. We're putting this episode of our Patreon exclusive series, The Docket, on YouTube. Videos drew an electoral map called HB1 that only included one majority black district out of 6 statewide, despite the 2020 census showing that 1/3 of the Louisiana population was black. Civil rights groups and community members sued, and it was decided that they needed a new map with 2 majority black districts to reflect the state's population. The new map, SB 8, passed in the state legislature in 2024, and it seemed like it was over. But a group of non-African American voters claimed SB 8 was unconstitutional because race was the sole reason for the map. They argued because the map was created to fix discrimination against black voters, it was discriminating against white voters. This is Louisiana versus Calais.
And the Calais case wound up being heard by 2 Trump judges. And those Trump judges said that the maps that Louisiana drew were themselves unconstitutional.
After an initial oral argument in March 2025, the Supreme Court heard re-arguments 7 months later.
We will hear argument first this morning in Case 24-109, Louisiana versus Calais.
These arguments were framed around a single question: whether the state's intentional creation of a second majority-minority congressional district violates the 14th or 15th Amendments to the U.S. Constitution.
This court's cases, in a variety of contexts, have said that race-based remedies are permissible for a period of time, sometimes for a long period of time, decades in some cases, but that they should not be indefinite and should have an endpoint.
If it's going above and beyond what the 15th Amendment requires of its own force, but Congress has actually chosen the Voting Rights Act as a remedy, does that affect the question of whether it can go on indefinitely or not?
I had two takeaways from the argument in Calais. One is that the Republican justices are absolutely determined to eliminate the Voting Rights Act racial gerrymandering safeguards. The other thing is that they have no idea how to do it. They couldn't agree on a rationale for why they should do it. They sort of started with the outcome they wanted, and then were tossing out different theories they could use to get to that outcome.
I find it particularly cruel to use two amendments that were created to protect Black and other communities of color and women, right, after Reconstruction, to use those two amendments to then take away voice and rights from the very people they were created to protect.
In many ways, the Voting Rights Act has already been gutted and no longer carries the same protections it once had. This case could be its last gasp.
Now our governor, our attorney general, and our legislature, who are all Republicanly controlled, are saying that it was a mistake. It was a mistake to create a fair map. It was a mistake to give voice to an opportunity for Black voters to be able to elect a candidate of choice, to have true representation.
You know, I've always viewed the Voting Rights Act as like a sacred text. You know, this is the law that finally made the United States into a liberal democracy where everyone had an equal, or at least every citizen had an equal say in who would govern them. But the law only works if you can trust the federal government to want to implement this law.
If the court decides to strike down Section 2, it would be ruling that any use of race in districting, even if it was meant to remedy racial discrimination in the first place, is illegal.
In the likely event that the Supreme Court overrules Jingles and eliminates the Voting Rights Act's protections against racial gerrymandering, the immediate effects are going to be pretty catastrophic, both for Black representation and for Democrats.
Some reports suggest that as many as 19 House seats could be flipped Republican with redrawn district maps. And it's not just the House of Representatives.
This is bigger than just one congressional seat in the state of Louisiana. We could see a sweeping change that would set us back 60 years.
What happens next with the Voting Rights Act won't be clear until the Supreme Court makes a ruling on the case, which should arrive just in time to set the stage for the 2026 midterm elections. It might very well usher in a renewed fight over voting rights in America in the 21st century.
It cannot be minimized, the fact that people died for Black voters to have voice and opportunity and representation. I think you absolutely will see, Black voters mobilizing across this country. There's going to be a reckoning.
Okay, I'm stopping that. I hope I stopped it. There we go. So before we start on this, which I'm sure everybody's got some real things, as I'm not a lawyer or a politician or anything, but in Louisiana or any other state where they eliminate this Black voting sections, a Black person can run in any county. There's no restraint on where a Black person can run. There's no restraint on a Black person. He can vote in any county. Or he has to vote in a county where he lives. Maybe that's it. So, okay, so if they're segregated, where you got Black people living on the west side of the river and the white people living on the east side of the river, and then you got, what is it called, the doctrine that was thrown out, equal but different, separate but equal. Well, we got Black people here and white people there, and we've got to make sure that they both have a chance to elect somebody. That's separate but equal. So a Black guy, he can go run in a white community, and if he's good, like Obama did, America voted for him, and he doesn't have, they didn't say only Black people can vote for Obama, but it seems like what they're saying is Black people will only vote for Black people, so we got to get the place where the Black people live and make sure they get enough votes there to elect a congressman, because it won't work. White people won't vote for Black candidates. So that's separate but equal. So maybe I'm misunderstanding it, but it's not the concept that we're all Louisianans. Is that right? Louisianans. And we want to vote for whoever we want to be the head, wherever he comes from, or he stands on his head, or he has 11 fingers. It doesn't matter. You can vote for him. and you don't have to be a special person to vote for them. Any person can vote for any person, except you got to vote for where you live. So, but there shouldn't be a map made up for blacks. And what about the Vietnamese? And what about the?
All right. Well, first, okay.
What about the
Kenny.
gypsies?
All right, Kenny. First of all, look, man.
What about the poor?
Kenny, there are reasons why. Look, my family fought in the Civil War. All right.
You didn't.
Oh yeah, I care about that shit. Okay, I care about that shit. Two of them died in Texas out of disease. They were from Iowa infantry regiments. They all fought for the North.
Yeah.
One of them went through Georgia. I hope he burned the shit out of those cocksuckers.
There you go.
And another one was a cavalry commander in the Army of the Potomac. All right. One of them was captured outside of St. Petersburg, and he escaped to Union lines due to a runaway slave boy. So I take seriously the implications and after effects of the Civil War. Now, all that's going on right now.
Why was there a Civil War? What was the Civil War for?
What do you mean? Because
why did we fight a Civil War?
Oh, come on.
Wasn't it to eliminate slavery?
Well, that was certainly one of the issues, wasn't it?
Okay, anyway, so the war was fought to eliminate slavery.
I would say that, well, they seceded from the North in every single state constitution. In the South, when they set up the Confederate States of America, all had in each of their constitutions their firm adherence to chattel slavery. But anyway, let me get back to the issue of this whole question of what just happened with Louisiana versus Calais. The Reconstruction failed. The first Reconstruction failed. We all know that. And the second Reconstruction is what we lived in. You know, Michael's younger than us, so he was, I don't know when Michael was born. I assume you were born in the 70s, right, Michael? Or in the 80s?
No, 80s.
80s, okay. So Michael was not alive when we were watching the Civil Rights Movement as young people. And that was essentially the backdrop for the Civil Rights Act of 1965. Now you've had, I once watched former Attorney General Holder. Are we recording this, by the way?
Yeah.
Are you going to post this?
If you don't want me to, I won't. Well, it's going out on YouTube.
All right, I'm not gonna mention this next little thing about Attorney General Holder, but anyway, so I watched Holder once come and complain about the fact that Shelby versus Holder had his name in it because he was very angry. This is the 2013 decision that starts the evisceration of the Voting Rights Act. Then you have Brownovich versus GNC in 2021, and now you have Louisiana versus Calais in 2026. Now, the whole purpose of that was to fight against Jim Crow, fight against the disenfranchisement of black voters that had been done violently after 1877. I mean, remember, they were fighting the KKK's organized as an organization of Southern and Confederate veterans to oppose the empowerment of freed slaves. I mean, and there's a whole big history about this. There's no ambiguity about this. So what are they trying to rectify? They're trying to rectify what happened in the late 19th century when all these things were taken away from African Americans. They were totally, all their voting rights were destroyed in the South. And so this whole issue of, empowering them as part of the Great Society, which is one of the good things you can say about LBJ. And so this is a retrograde step in our society, which will incur. I mean, this is frankly, I can understand why Trump did it because he doesn't want to have his second part of his second term screwed up because the Democrats take control of the House. So I understand it. And he's made it much more difficult for the Democrats to take control of the House. They may not be able to take control of the House. But we'll see, because the war is weakening him. It's weakening his approval ratings. It's a difficult process, what's going on with the Iranians. I bet you part of the Iranians are calculating, let's continue this war into the spring, it's into the summer and the fall, because they're calculating it will hurt Trump in the economy getting worse, and that'll have an impact on the voters in the fall midterms. We'll see what happens. I think it's in his objective interest to end this as fast as possible. So, there's an international context to the impact of these decisions right now in this case in Louisiana versus California.
What my statement was, incorrect. A black candidate can run in any county in Louisiana.
Yeah, but he's not going to get elected.
Well, he can run.
Yeah, but the whole point of empowering 30% of the population in these states happen to be black. So that means basically they've diluted and the reason you're gerrymandering is you want to make sure that your opponents don't get elected. So, I mean, come on, man, this is ridiculous. I mean, I'm glad. I mean, you probably voted against the.
So you're saying in order for a black guy to get elected to the Congress for certain states, you have to get all the black people together and so they can vote for him.
Well, that's part of the thinking in the sense that you want to empower certain percentages of the population that have traditionally been disempowered. And that's what happened before the civil rights. That's happened before the 1965 Civil Rights Act.
Okay,
and so to me, want to argue this, wasting my time to argue this stuff, man.
Okay.
Really,
How many years ago?
Total waste of my time. What?
Was it about 100 years ago?
What do you mean 100 years ago? 1965 is what? It was what? 50, 60 years ago.
Okay. Did it work? Did it solve the problem?
I think it did. It elected, we're talking about 19 to 20 seats in the Congress and probably 190 legislative seats in state legislatures that'll get fucked up because of this. And so why do you think people...
The African American population is 13%. What
Yes,
percentage of the Congress is black?
Well, I don't know. Well, someone can find that out pretty quickly. I don't think it's more than 8 or 9%. I mean, somebody could. I don't know. What is it? I'm sure it may be equal to the population. I don't know. I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay.
That's easy enough to find out. The Congressional Black Caucus. How many people? But of course, it would be better. I mean, anybody running. I'll tell you an example. I once went into Congressman, who's a congressman from Harlem, who was there for years, Charlie Rangel.
Chuck Rangel. Yeah.
I went into Chuck Rangel's office once. I was lobbying on Capitol Hill over missing children. And I went in there with the statistics of all the kids in Harlem who were missing. I had all that data with me. And the guy sat there and said to me, well, missing children, that's a white people issue. I said, oh, yeah? Check this out, man. I showed him all these missing children cases from Harlem in his constituency. And that actually got me the support of Charlie Rangel's office because we were trying to push legislation at the time. But, that was an issue that affected everybody because his stereotype was it's all blonde white girls who get raped by some crazy maniac, which, of course, is partly true. But black kids were getting taken, too. So, sure, it'd be great to have, the Republicans always love to sit there and quote the 62 March, I Have a Dream, the color of a, all the stuff about how color should count. But all their behavior, the GOP from 64 on, or even earlier, indicates that that was not how they view it in reality, tactically, politically. All they did was completely regain their power, in part due to racial hysteria. And I think that that's something one could see in what we're going through right now as Americans.
Okay, well, it's 12% of the Congress, 12.5, 12.
All right, so they got 12.5%.
Right. Okay, great. So now that's good. Jim, thank you. I got it. So let's go to Mike.
So what year, it was 1965?
Yeah.
This was when and the current year is 2026.
Yeah.
And what's and we're concerned about this, and it was already struck down. That already happened. That's the other thing too, but it's 2026. I'm sorry. I mean, it sucks that it happened, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm not gonna rage on it or stand up and whatever. Shit happens. Like I have no sympathy for any of this whatsoever. not just with the raw whole just the one up them. We're in the era of one up them. In this particular thing, the right is one, and they get to one up the left, and then when the left comes in, they'll one up the right, and then they'll disenfranchise, or they'll lawfare, or they'll whatever.
No.
And well, you saw that in Virginia with the whole thing. Like they had, like, Virginia was supposed to be like the model for like their congressional map or whatever. Like, supposed to have been down the line and like in equal, and the Democrat, and like that just. When Trump is involved with shit, it just went out the fucking window. And they're like, nope, fuck that. We're going to go full throttle. We're going to win the House. They won the state House. They won the governorship. And then they turn around and they push that redistricting thing all the way through. All of it wasn't for Virginia, but it was for the betterment of the Democrat Party for political power. And then you have the same thing, this whole thing, or whatever. The Democrats warned, if the GOP, if you do this redistricting thing, we'll be prepared. We'll fight back, and that's where we're at. I mean, I don't give a fuck about a race or this or that. I think we're well past. I don't think it's 100%, but it's not 1965 anymore. And I get that, and I want to have a more equitable distribution of people. Like, I have a lot of ideas. One thing, we were locked. We're locked at a whether it doesn't matter if you're black, white, or whatever. We're locked at a, what is it, 1931? I think is when they passed they locked in. I think it was 115 million people at that point in time. The size of a congressional district, the breakdown of a basic unit of representation of like what would be what, like that was. Then we have 330 million people. You know, that Congress needs to get bigger. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we could look at to fix this that don't take a congressional convention or whatever. So if there can be a solution that can find a better way to do this without that, but when you have an entire state that will, out of sheer rage and for political points for the gaining party, that are willing to just disenfranchise an entire, I think 40% of Virginia, I think, is Republican or something, but their map is, I might be wrong on that, but the current map is like, there's like one or two Republican districts or whatever that would have been, had that new map stood. So if that's a thing, how the fuck are we gonna, if that's already going in the real world? So never mind higher level ideas of race or some kind of like the just arm of rightness being, we have inequities in the past and we want to make things better. I get that. 1965 anymore. So we're somewhere beyond that. Well, we're obviously not at the utopia stage or whatever, which I'm kind of being snarky here a little bit, but somewhere in between that boundary there, but also have that other thing that I was talking about going on with this red and blue thing. I don't want to hear it. I just, like, I'm not saying it's fair. It's not fair, but that's my point. My point is like, it's not fair. So, I mean, and what I just described is like, that's, I hate to be the guy that like to like, do the thing, but like, I mean, honestly, the best relief that you can do is if you want a better, more fair shake or whatever, I guess, is to physically move. And I think that's why you see a lot of people moving around. Like, there's a lot more, I don't know if it's any more than normal, but like, if you don't like your area, it's a lot easier to move and sell your house and go live in another school district like that thinks and feels like you do or whatever, than it is to stick around and fight in your own backyard to fix it or whatever. That's the other thing too. People don't want to fix it. But anyway, I digress. Like, I understand the concerns and I applaud the spirit of like that and like being concerned about that. But that's also kind of like that's how the old liberal order worked. That's the vast majority of how that worked. Like, that's that. I guess that would be called the neoliberal world. I guess maybe, I don't know, but might be trying to be. I might be. I'm going to stop now because I'm trying to sound too fancy. In danger of sounding even stupider than I normally would. So there you go.
Oh, thanks. That sounded good to me, Mike. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, I disagree. I mean, and part of the problem again is if
Hey,
if you
Mike,
allow this kind of gerrymandering, basically,
Alex, you got to get off the desk. Back up. Can't see you. There we go. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you praised that because Alex, you got to get more centered with your picture when you're doing shit.
You got to
Because
click there.
we are only seeing the top of your head sometimes,
Yeah.
You got to sit there and maneuver it. So because I was gonna because Gail's sitting there criticizing, oh, where the fuck is Alex's head?
All you got to do is tilt the top.
Yeah,
of
you got to tilt it. You got to tilt it or bring it up more.
Yeah.
So he can see your mug.
There we go. That's good enough.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's.
There you go, baby.
I mean, it's not just the racial aspects, but yeah, it's gerrymandering means that essentially it's the politicians who are choosing the people in their district rather than the other way around, which is the way it should be. I mean, personally, I think we're much better off with more of a kind of a European style where they're like what they call at-large districts, like a certain number of representatives are chosen based on essentially you have like you poll the whole state essentially, and so you get multiple representatives from like a whole state essentially, rather than this we're just gonna geographically divide up the state and manipulate things. So I mean it's been used specifically sometimes to like get a specific. I don't know if Jim remembers, but I think at some point in was it 2008 they specifically because Dennis Kucinich was too annoying basically to Obama. They redistricted him so that he lost re-election, and I think we'll think he's important voice in in the Democratic Party, but also for the country. Again, he's one of the few genuinely like anti-war politicians out there who's been consistently so, and has never supported any one of our dumb wars. Yeah, and including like ones that everybody voted for, like Kosovo.
Well, look. When I've worked in congressional campaigns, I've worked in presidential campaigns, never worked in senatorial campaigns. I guess the first presidential campaign I worked in was McGovern. Now that, of course, was a big defeat. And I frankly had no illusions that McGovern could beat Nixon. But, that's when Watergate was just boiling up. That hadn't really like clobbered Nixon because the GOP took a hit in 72 in the House and Senate. And then, of course, in the aftermath of Watergate, they really got clobbered in 74. Because that's, when Nixon had to retire or had to, resign from being president. Now, in congressional races, it's all grassroots shit. It really is. It's down to the grassroots, man. I mean, that friend of mine who works in the Working Families Party, and like I'm asking him, I haven't gotten on the phone with him because he goes granularly around the Northeast and works in campaigns at the local level. And so gerrymandering can indeed affect things because the Republicans, of course, have a pretty big war chest. I think they outspent. Look at what they did in those primaries in Indiana, where they were able to keep control. They knocked out 5 state legislators who opposed Trump on the reapportionment issues. So I believe the Republicans. I heard one number which really blew my mind, that the Republicans have a war chest that's 6 to 7 times larger than Democrats for the midterms. But whatever it is, they have more money. Now, what you can do with that, of course, is you can go in and with the gerrymandering, you can essentially use all the power of social media and then, of course, do your smear campaigns because negative campaigning always works. I've always had great respect for the GOP when they pick up their clever negative campaigns. And so, gerrymandering, I mean, was it gerrymandering? Is that what the guy's in Massachusetts? Wasn't he in the early 19th century? It was a governor of Massachusetts whose name was Jerry and Mander or something. I forget the origins of the term. But it's American apple pie. You're going to try to destroy the other power of the other political party by gerrymandering. So the Democrats shouldn't be surprised by this. They shouldn't sit there and think that they were sort of walking cock of the walk for a couple of weeks when they had California, Virginia, etc. And then, the Republicans, of course, are not sitting on a behind because, Trump, whoever decided at the national level was smart because they said, okay, we need to get 10 or 12 extra seats because we don't want to lose control of the House. And so that's what Trump is aiming for, and it's just made it a lot more difficult for now again, the negativity ratings are so high for him that he's going to have to really convince. So you always can tell 35% of the population, that his farts smell like perfume. They'll believe him. But then he's got the problem with the independents. They're not going for his bullshit right now. And neither are conservative Democrats who are pissed off over the cost of living. So he's got some real problems. The tariff, look what's going to happen in China. I'm going to get Aaron on next week to talk about this. I said, Aaron, I want you to talk about Trump's trip to China. I want to hear I want to have a really serious discussion about that. Anyway, the House elections and I don't think Democrats have a chance in the Senate, but I could be wrong. There'd have to be some real catastrophes. And Trump is not stupid. He's not going to have a situation where the price per oil is $150 a barrel for 14 weeks. That would fuck him completely. And he knows it. Why do you think he's always he plays his little game, his little razzle-dazzle game? Oh, we're having peace. Oh, they're close to peace. And they go, he wants to keep the market under control. He wants to keep the price of oil down below 110 a barrel. So, I always see his maneuvering around in that, it's very clever. It's very clever on his part.
You feel better now? That was the Trump section of the meeting. I want to show you I got to show you something else here. I have to show you this so that you see what you're talking about. Here we go. Ethnic groups that are underrepresented in Congress. And they got the blacks here. They're 14% of the population, only 12% of the House. But what about the Latinos? 20% of the population, 10% in the House.
Well, that's
Americans, 6%, 4%.
Right.
Native Americans, 1.3%, and they only got
4 members.
4%. That's high. And this one is higher too. Middle Eastern, there's only 1% of the population. They got 1.3%. Here's another one. White people, overrepresented. So what do you want to do? You want to have get all the Asian Americans go live in the one district and so that they can elect their.
You're ignoring fucking history, Ken. You're ignoring our history.
Look at this. What are you talking about?
Were Hispanics made into slaves? No. Fuck no.
Oh, so you're having an ethnic consideration that we owe.
What do you mean ethnic? We fought a civil war, man.
No slaves today. There are no slaves in the U.S. today. We fought a civil war over it. There are no slaves in the U.S.
All right.
It's over.
All right.
Are you saying a figurative, there is no a zero, or are you saying a de facto 0% today?
No chattel slaves like there was before the Civil War.
Well, if you're incarcerated, there's sort of interesting aspects of that. The way they exploit you for, low-paid labor when you're in prison. But look at the Hispanic stats. Yeah. That is where he made a big mistake.
That's because the state owns. If you're a prisoner of the state owns you.
Correct.
Literally own you. I mean, not to make. Anyway, sorry. Go on.
Correct. No, you're right. And then you go into these southern states, and most of the prisoners are black, of course. But anyway, and look, I'm not going to get into. Look, I've had people put guns in my face. I've had people rob me at gunpoint, and yeah, they were African American. and and I wasn't gonna, so I'm familiar with street crime and all that other bullshit, but I didn't walk around there and then have this grudge like Bernie Getz did, where I'm looking for my first opportunity to fucking blow some motherfuckers away, which is what he did. No, I mean, admittedly, I did go get a piece after that because I was pretty pissed off. But, but, you didn't see me go shoot anybody because I
You
had
got
actually.
ammunition with it?
Oh yeah, I was all prepared, man. I was all prepared. I was very angry about that. It was a cab driver job I was doing,
Oh, okay.
and I got ripped off. And that was when they didn't have any shields dividing you from the people. But look at the Latin vote. See, that's where he's miscalculated. All this immigration bullshit. You look at all the polls, there's lots of Latinos who voted for Trump, and they're not going to do it this time. They got pissed off over all this bullshit that went on for the past year and a half.
Okay. Okay, good. They voted for the Democrats who kept open up the border.
I should say, I was going to say before, obviously I sound partisan because I am. I don't have any problem with with this redistricting thing and what they're doing. I don't have any problem whatsoever with it. And I don't, because there's just been so much massive horseshit from the Democrats over the last several whatever, just reacting to the guy that gave us a worse fucking mess than had you just gone along with the guy and fucking let's go. It would have already been over and done deal. We would have already been well on to the next Democrat by now with these idiots and the way that they react to this guy. Like this is just an ongoing thing, and this is the final chapter of it. It's only 2 more years, and all of this cheating that is going on too is only going to go for so far, because people still have to vote and decide. They still have to show up. So it could very well be that this machinations of this thing, of the Voting Rights Act being struck down and then taking advantage of it and then having a monetary advantage, who knows how far that will go. But, it's looking like it's at best 50-50. It's not going to be a 30, unless it's unusual. It's not going to be a 30 plus, a D plus 30 wipeout. I mean, it could be, could very well be. It could eat my words, but Senate, I don't know. Like I've seen in the last 6 weeks, about every 2 weeks it flips around, and now it's starting to come around to like where the GOP doesn't feel like they're suicidal with the way that they've been talking, because the Democrats have been talking really, really, and the media has been carrying that water about the redistricting and the Democrats having an advantage, and like as Jim described, them picking a fight way earlier than this and saying, "I dare you," and they say, "Okay, we'll do it," and they did it. But who knows? There's a lot of other factors that go into there. I tend to agree. I still think that I think the Democrats will probably still win the House. I don't think they'll win the Senate, but I agree with Jim there. But who knows?
Yeah. Okay, hey, that's it. That was good. We're leaving on a flat point. Jim got his air. Alex, you got anything to say before we close it out? It's 11 o'clock back there.
Yeah. It's getting late.
You got to catch the Johnny Carson show or whatever's going on.
Carson.
What's his name?
Yeah.
Stephen Colbert. I think he might be out. Is he gone?
I think he's still got a few more shows, but yeah, he's leaving.
A few more shows. So he's going to have specials in the last couple of shows, like Johnny Carson did. Johnny Carson had Bette Midler. She wrote a song for him, and so did Dolly Parton. You can catch it on YouTube.
All right.
In his last show.
Okay,
hey.
Okay.
Michael, it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Jim, there you go. Very good.
Thanks for letting me flap my gums.
Okay.
Night.
I'm not gonna. Hey, anytime you want, I can always cut something out. I certainly cut out if I'm embarrassed. So there you go. Okay, Alex is gone, and good night, Sean. Good night, Jim, and good night, Ken. And everybody else is watching. Stay curious.
Good night, Moon. Good night, Spoon. Good night, Red Shoe.
That's good.